What if the alliances that have protected countries for over 70 years, the cornerstone of international security, started to fall apart in front of our own eyes? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, is now standing on the edge of a knife. NATO, once unshakable, is being tested like never before. Internal divisions, rising nationalism, and the relentless advance of rival superpowers threaten to tear it apart. Since its founding in 1949, NATO has been a foundation of global security, brought together by the straightforward idea of collective defense. But here's the real question. Can NATO adapt to a rapidly changing world, or are we witnessing the beginning of its end? This is more than a story of politics. It's a high-stakes battle that could reshape the balance of power across the globe. In this video, we're unveiling the hidden battle for NATO's survival. Will it emerge stronger and united in the face of rising threats? Or are we witnessing the slow collapse of one of the most powerful alliances in history? Before you move on, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to 10-Minute Quest. Born out of the Cold War to fight against the Soviet Union, NATO's purpose has evolved dramatically in the decades since. Instead, the alliance has enlarged its remit to cover other global challenges such as terrorism, cyber attacks, and hybrid warfare. The first invocation of collective defense under Article 5 was after 9/11, showing its ability to pivot beyond traditional territorial defense. NATO has also focused more on the rising global powers of China and Russia, deepening partnerships in the Indo-Pacific with countries like Japan and Australia. These moves reflect the commitment by NATO to stay relevant in an interconnected, unpredictable world. While internal divisions and resource challenges persist, NATO can adapt to the shifting landscape of global security challenges. Its enduring importance is thus proven. The alliance's relevance in unifying the member states and dealing with threats both regionally and globally in the 21st century stands. Rising tensions among NATO member states have raised critical questions about the alliance's unity and effectiveness. Deepening political fault lines, with Turkey's divergence from Western norms increasingly deep, the cohesion in NATO is being put to the test as never before. Not to mention this, the financial burden brought the suspicion that NATO, more and more, turns into the US subsidy in which many of the allies avoid paying their proper share for common defense. It was then that the complicated relationship between Turkey and NATO showed up to become a point of growing concern. Growing alignment with non-Western powers and reluctance to fully embrace the core values of NATO has raised questions about its future. The danger is that such drift undermines internal solidarity and increasingly complicates NATO's strategic decision-making process in response to serious external threats. Many European nations struggle to meet financially the commitment to defense spending, bringing up the question of equitable burden sharing within the alliance. This could undermine trust and commitment from the member states because of the perception that the US pays disproportionately. Finding a resolution to these issues will be key for NATO as it heads into its next summit in 2025. This will ensure that the alliance remains united and effective in an increasingly complex global security environment. Russia aggressively pursues territorial expansion, and China's influence grows on the global stage. NATO stands at a crossroads. The expansion of the alliance up to Russia's borders has reshaped the security landscape in Europe. This has increased tensions and raised questions over whether NATO can effectively respond to the rise of emerging alliances, such as BRICS and the SCO. NATO's expansion has been a highly contentious issue, seen by Russia as a direct threat to its sphere of influence. That commitment to collective defense has been interpreted to mean the military presence in Eastern Europe, with an increase following Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea, and especially after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. All this is part of a prudent posture to dissuade further aggression, but also one that risks a broader conflict. Emerging alliances such as BRICS and SEO challenge the existing power balance. This could weaken the role that NATO currently enjoys by making available to them alternatives, perhaps eventually culminating into another bloc to oppose the West. As NATO works through this complex landscape, its capability to maintain unity among the member states and adapt to these emerging challenges will be crucial in maintaining stability in Europe and beyond. The geopolitical configuration has changed, and the commitment of the U.S. towards NATO is hanging in the balance with wide fears about what this means to the future of the alliance. Some fear, should there be any change in American foreign policy, especially where he is to return to office, NATO will witness an intense pullback of American involvement. Trump has long criticized NATO, suggesting that European allies need to take on a greater share of the financial burden, a process that could undermine the cohesion and effectiveness of the alliance. This has triggered debate over the question of whether Europe needs its own defense structure outside of NATO. Some European leaders argue that a more robust European defense capability is the sine qua non of regional security without exclusive dependence on support from the United States. The discussion reveals one critical tension. Although NATO has conventionally been regarded as the cornerstone of transatlantic security, changing U.S. political dynamics may make it necessary for Europe to reconsider its current defense posture. In other words, the question is whether the U.S. stays committed to the alliance or if changing politics has further weakened its position. This is in the face of internal struggles within NATO and external pressures. The result of this debate will have significant implications for the future not only of NATO itself, but also of the broader security architecture in Europe and beyond. For decades, NATO reaped the benefits of the peace dividend, the belief that the end of the Cold War would usher in an era of reduced military spending and lasting stability. But the world NATO once knew no longer exists. The alliance now finds itself at a critical juncture, facing mounting challenges both from within and outside. Russia's aggressive expansionism has redrawn Europe's map, with nearly 20% of Georgia and Ukraine under occupation since 2008. Meanwhile, China's military budget has surged by 76% in the past decade, signaling Beijing's growing ambitions far beyond Asia. Internally, NATO's unity is under strain. Despite agreements, only 11 of its 31 member nations met the 2% GDP defense spending target in 2023, raising questions about the alliance's commitment to collective security. Rising nationalism, political rifts, and economic pressures have further complicated NATO's ability to project a united front. But the threats don't stop there. Cyber warfare, hybrid conflicts, and non-state actors have introduced unpredictable and dangerous dimensions to global security. NATO, once the cornerstone of peace in the post-World War II era, must now evolve to face adversaries that operate in both the physical and digital worlds. The stakes couldn't be higher. Is NATO prepared to defend its member states against an increasingly volatile geopolitical landscape? Or will these new perils, coupled with internal discord, push the alliance toward irrelevance? As the world holds its breath, one thing is clear: NATO's response will shape the future of global security for generations to come. Recently, the member states agreed on substantial increases to their jointly funded budgets for 2025. 483.3 million euros for civil operations and 2.37 billion euros for military initiatives, representing a 10% and 9% increase, respectively, over 2025-2024. This financial commitment underlines NATO's determination to further develop its operational capabilities and readiness. Modern warfare is no longer confined to battlefields on Earth. With more and more cyber attacks against critical infrastructure and the increasing militarization of outer space, NATO reshapes its mission to prepare for wars fought in new domains. The alliance, in its turn, due to the increased sophistication of the cyber threats, puts more and more effort into enhancing its capability to do cyber defense by establishing the NATO Integrated Cyber Defense Center and regular exercises preparing the member states for possible cyber attacks. It now uses emerging technologies to bolster its own resiliency and network and operations security against cyber, from cloud computing down to artificial intelligence. The alliance is holding active discussions on space as a new operational frontier, with an emphasis on the need for coordination among member states to address potential threats from adversaries seeking to exploit vulnerabilities in this area. In summary, as NATO adapts to the realities of modern warfare, technological advancements are poised to redefine its mission. Its commitment to building up cyber capabilities and considering outer space warfare shows that the alliance is determined to remain relevant and effective in the increasingly complex security environment. In light of rising global tensions and evolving threats, NATO's ability to adapt and evolve is more crucial than ever, and the next decade could determine its future. NATO has conventionally been an instrument of collective defense. It now confronts challenges on many dimensions: cyber warfare, terrorism, and most of all, the aggressive posturing of countries like Russia and China. The alliance is looking for its mission to be redefined in light of newer realities. However, critics say that NATO is not adapting fast enough to these challenges, and hence risks losing relevance in a complex security environment. Besides, internal divisions among the member states complicate cohesion within NATO. The debate over whether Europe should develop its independent defense structure raises concerns about the potential weakening of NATO's collective security framework. The need to balance these divergent priorities among member states will be crucial in the quest for unity as the world forges ahead through very stormy geopolitical waters. Do you think that NATO can work out its problems and continue to act as a united force for security? Let us know in the comments section. If this video was informative, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos about global affairs. Let's keep the conversation going about the future of international security.